Hello, everybody. Crazy Larry here for a second time today. Let's talk a little bit about Alexander's going in across the street from Green Acres and how Green Acres did not like it, and they put up a fence because they didn't like people being able to go from the mall directly to Alexander's. They didn't want Alexander's being part of the mall. Anyway, everybody got around it by pulling the fence down, and funny thing happened. Alexander's had a wraparound parking. So you had wraparound parking on the first tier, and then there was a lower tier which was ground level. And on Sundays, because it was closed, the kids used to take their go karts and motorbikes and go run around the building with them, and you could hear the noise, under there would echo. It was really great. And in Sunday in Green Acres, fathers used to take their sons and daughters to teach them how to drive in the parking lot because it was empty because the stores were closed because of the blue law. Anyway, Alexander's went in, and then down a little from Alexander's going west, you had a place called the Steak Pub, which was a large, gigantic castle-looking building that served steaks in a castle-like interior with a large chariot, not chariot, a large, what would you call the old wagons in those days, ornate, beautiful interior pulled by horses. They had one inside. The booths were gigantic, big, gigantic booths with red leather seats, and they were huge, so they were very high, so you were very private. And they served steaks, and it was a lot of fun to go there to eat. And that restaurant, Cookie Steak Pub, was an offshoot of their original restaurant in Green Acres called Cookies, which is just a regular small restaurant in the mall. And then they opened up that one. The steak pubs became very popular over the years because they made a buffet out of it, and you could go and get a steak dinner with the not a buffet, a salad bar style, and they were famous for their banana bread, and people went there to buy it. You could buy it at the counter, and you could also get, part of the meal. You could take as much as you want at the salad bar. Um, if you were just across the street from the middle of the mall, on the road that was on the north side, facing the wall, there was a place called Green Acres Bowl. Had 48 lanes with a little liquor bar in the middle inside the building, and we would go bowling at night. There was wonderful. A lady who did refuse to have her house torn down had a stone house next to the Green Acres Bowl, and it stayed up for the longest time until she finally died, I believe, and they finally knocked it down. And they put up a banking computer center there, which was stayed there many years. But that house, she was stubborn. She didn't want it torn down. She lived till she died there, so they allowed her to stay. It was really I remember it going into the courts. It was a long time ago in the '60s. They finally tore down Green Acres Bowl and they put up other things, but yeah, there was a lot of changes in that area. Finally, when they closed the mall up, as time went on, they added more stores in the second level, and on the eastern side of the mall, you had Sears. Sears built a giant parking garage with a automotive center and the big Sears store, which was on the eastern side of the mall, which was in front of the original mall, that went east west. And so that Sears store was in front of where Love's Lanes, the original stores, went, and then Corvettes came in, and you had Gertz, and you had a lot of different stores that came in there. It just was one after another. Nothing ever stayed there. The mall also had Models. It had a place in the '70s called J.J. Newberry's, which was like a discount store that had all types of stuff, clothing, fish tanks in the basement, small animals like mice and guinea pigs and things like that you could get. And they also had in the front that faced the mall if you guys could remember, there was a place that used to have the iron-on pictures onto a shirt. So you'd buy the shirt, pick what you wanted, and they would put it under a machine, and it would get heated onto the front of the shirt. And I used to get rock bands put on my shirt. So I used to go to high school with all these shirts on. Yes, Led Zeppelin, all the old shirts I remember having for many years. I used to wear them. It was a very popular thing. I remember we used to go to, I think I mentioned this in an earlier video, Lofts and Barracini's were candy companies that used to be in Brooklyn and Manhattan as well. And they opened up in the mall. And it was so popular to go in there, and they had the big counter with all the delicious handmade chocolates. And we used to bring home bags and bags of candy, on the weekend. If we went to the mall, of course, we didn't get it every week. They also had Bonds and Regents, a men's clothing store. And I remember, a funny thing was, my mother used to take me to I think I mentioned this also in an earlier video, Stride Right shoes, which sold Hush Puppies. I used to get Hush Puppies, which were very comfortable. I used to wear them in public school, and then when I first started 7th grade, I think, and then I stopped and I was wearing boots and sneakers, of course. Speaking of sneakers, I can jump a little bit now. On Sunrise Highway, there was a place called Herman's World of Sporting Goods, and when the Knicks were really big in the 69, 70, 71, 72 season, Walt Frazier came out with the Puma Clyde sneaker, and I begged my mother to buy it for me. So she took me over to Herman's, and I got one of the first pair of Puma Clyde sneakers among my friends when I wore it into high school, and they were flipping out. Actually, it wasn't high school; it was junior high. And I loved them, boy. I treated them like they were like gold. Like you had to put them away each night, and I brushed them. And I believe they were, back in those days, they were, maybe $30, maybe, and that was like a fortune. Today, those sneakers on the same line as like a Jordan, you're talking those would be way over $100, maybe $200. It's all relative to the times. Also, next to Herman's, which was on Sunrise way before you got to the mall, there was a place next door called Floyd Bennett's, which was a clothing and plates and dishes and kitchenware and all types of that type of stuff. A sporty goods part. I don't know what type of store you'd call it, but they had that. And Floyd Bennett's went out of business, and then a place called Great Eastern took it over. And then that finally went out. And then after that war was out, the store stayed empty for a little while. And then Toys R Us came in, and that was the store that stayed there the longest of any of the stores in that spot, of course. And I used to go to Toys R Us for Christmas to pick up games and presents for, like all the little kids we had that we knew. It was a different era. I remember going to Green Acres during Christmas time. It was packed. You couldn't get in the place. You couldn't park. You couldn't walk. Today, malls across America, just like the mall here, Green Acres, you could go there anytime, even the day before Christmas, and there would be no lines. You could buy whatever you want because the internet came, the internet took over, and that's where it stands. Malls are closing across the country. So that's why I'm surprised that they're redoing our mall and tearing down part of it. Sears is going out there. Sears went out of business a long time ago, and the store stayed empty, but they're putting new stores in. Anyway, I don't believe that that's happening, but I guess they feel it's going to make it. Anyway, it was good talking to everybody again, and that's my continuous talk about the history of Valley Stream and what went on around Green Acres. I'm going to talk a little more about another part of Valley Stream, the next video, which will be Rockaway Avenue. And Rockaway Avenue has a tremendous history in Valley Stream. I know you guys will love that. Until then, this is Crazy Larry signing off, and everybody have a good day. Take care, everybody. Bye.